name is Dawn Schoonebeer, and I'll be discussing inclusion in the traditional classroom. Imagine, if you will, 5 children standing side by side, no obvious physical differences, but there may be some that adults would notice in their behaviors. The children would probably not notice it in the same way. They would just assume that that's the way their friend is. That's a part of who they are, not something that defines who they are. That's sort of what inclusion of special needs students in traditional classrooms hopes to encourage, is that you have students with disabilities and without disabilities in the classroom learning social and academic things together. Inclusion programs have many classifications and alternatives. They also require teachers to collaborate with other professionals. The different types of inclusion are partial and full inclusion. Full inclusion is pretty extreme. It means you put a student with disabilities in a classroom with traditional students and have no outside support. They don't leave the classroom for any reason, but they also don't get any of the specialized attention that they may need. The partial inclusion tends to be a little more doable, if you will. They spend most of the day in the traditional classroom, and then they're pulled out for things like speech therapy or occupational therapy. Those two would be pretty disruptive in a traditional classroom, so having the ability to take the student out during times where they need it is a really awesome thing. Inclusion is pretty different from the older practices, which were mainstreaming and segregation. Mainstreaming was where we tried to change the student or taught them how to be in a traditional classroom. And segregation was where they would take students and put them in a self-contained classroom or even in a separate school. There are many accommodations that teachers and paraprofessionals can give a student to make being in a traditional classroom not as difficult for the student with disability and not as awkward for the students without disabilities. Some of those things are taking tests in small groups or one-on-one, using special equipment like computers to type answers, or having preferential seating, large print versions of tests, getting extended time, having an aide in the testing room or having a test administered by someone that's familiar to them, responding orally and having someone transcribe that, and also having someone cue them to stay on task. Also, teachers can do a lot of things to make the whole environment easy for both sets of students. They can assign the student with disabilities a buddy, and that buddy is the person that transitions them from subject to subject. Oh, look, now it's time for math. Or he or she will remind them that recess is over, it's time to go in, or where we sit in the lunchroom. Can also use games to reinforce lessons. That's fun for all the students. Or peer tutoring, where you've got a student that's excelling and maybe going above where the class is at, and the student that's below. Put them together and they tend to even out. There are a lot of pros and cons for inclusion. A lot of people say morally it's what we should do, that everybody should be created and treated equally. There are also a lot of people that cite studies that say students in an inclusive environment show increase in social and academic skills, that they're more empathetic, that they have more ability to care about everyone around them as well as learn in difficult situations sometimes. A lot of the critics are educators and parents. Parents are concerned that maybe their special needs student isn't getting the attention they need, and educators are upset that maybe they're not being able to give the time to those students, or that it's distracting from traditional students. Only time is going to be able to tell us if inclusion is for the good. Mainstreaming has been very productive in the past. It's raised test scores. Not greatly so, but significantly. It's a significant raise from segregation. So maybe this is our next step. Maybe this will bring it a little bit higher. No matter the classification or the common practices, the positives or negatives. It's the concept that we're embracing now. It's what most school systems are using, and so therefore we're all going to have to try it. The goal of inclusion is to create a world where differences in children are just a part of who they are and not all that they are.